The Island of the Forgotten Ship. Scene 1. The Discovery. It was 1947, off the coast of Maine. Dr. Arman Haq, a Bangladeshi oceanographer, was on a small research vessel. Their target was St. Helena Island, a small historical island off the coast of South Carolina. The locals were full of ghost stories about the place. Arman's assistant, Ginny, was operating a powerful sonar machine. Suddenly, the screen displayed a bizarre image. It wasn't a rock formation. It was the perfect, ghostly outline of a massive, ancient-looking shipwreck lodged perfectly within a hidden underwater cove of the island. "Dr. Haq, this looks like a ship," she exclaimed. Arman's heart raced. A ship like this shouldn't be here. There was no record of any large vessel in the historical archives. Scene 2. The Descent. 3 days later, they suited up for a dive. The water was cold and murky. As they descended, the dark shape of the wreck loomed like a sleeping leviathan. They swam along its hull. The wood was petrified, covered in barnacles, but the structure was incredibly intact. Arman's flashlight beam fell on something that made his blood run cold. Carved into the hull, faint but unmistakable, was a symbol, a coiled serpent, and below it the words, "Liberty." "Ginny, this ship was a privateer vessel used against the British during the American Revolution," Arman whispered through the comms, his voice trembling. "But the Liberty, according to records, was lost at sea in 1779, near Bermuda, not here." Scene 3. The Secret in the Captain's Cabin. They found a breach leading to the captain's cabin. Inside, the water was eerily still. A skeleton, still clad in tattered naval uniform, sat slumped at a desk. Its bony fingers were clutching a rusted metal box. With great effort, they brought the box to the surface. Inside, protected by a layer of wax, was a perfectly preserved leather-bound journal. The last entry was dated November 17, 1779. Arman started reading aloud, his voice a hushed reverence. "My final entry. The British warship HMS Vengeance pursues us. We were not merely privateers. Our mission was secret. Aboard the Liberty is not just ammunition, but something far more valuable. The entire treasury of the South Carolina colonial government. We were moving it to a safe location before the British could capture Charleston. We were betrayed. A rogue wave dashed us upon this God-forsaken island. Most of my crew perished, but I have hidden the chest in the one place no one will look, not in the ship, but on the island itself. I have drawn the map on the back of this page. The key is with the serpent's tooth." "The serpent's tooth?" Ginny asked, confused. Arman's mind raced. He remembered the symbol on the hull, the coiled serpent. He grabbed the map from the back of the journal. It was a crude drawing of the island. One marking was clear, a cluster of rocks on the northern shore that, from an aerial view, looked exactly like the fangs of a serpent. They took a small boat and rushed to the spot. There, hidden behind what indeed looked like a giant stone fang, was a small, dry cave, and in the center of the cave, untouched for nearly 170 years, was a massive iron-bound chest. Scene 5. The Greater Treasure. With bated breath, they pried the chest open. They expected gold coins, jewels, the lost treasury of South Carolina. But there was no gold. The chest was filled with documents, parchments, letters, and beautifully handwritten scrolls. On top was a single sheet that read, "To the finder, the true treasure is not gold, but the proof of our ideals. Herein lies the correspondence between our leaders, the secret alliances with the French, and the original, unsigned draft of what would become clauses in our Constitution. The British sought to capture this, to dismantle our revolution from within. We saved not our wealth, but our very soul. Protect it. Arman and Ginny stood in silence, the weight of history upon them. They hadn't found a pirate's treasure. They had found the secret genesis of the United States itself, hidden away on a forgotten island by a brave captain and his lost crew. The real mystery was no longer about the ship, but about the stories those fragile papers would now tell to the world. And the ghost of the Liberty could finally rest, its true, priceless mission complete.
Scene 6. The Guardian's Warning. The silence in the cave was broken by a crunch of gravel behind them. Arman and Jenny spun around, shielding the ancient chest. Standing at the cave's entrance was an old man, his face as weathered as the island's cliffs. He held a simple fishing rod, but his eyes held a sharp, unnerving intelligence. "I see you found Captain Harrington's Folly," the old man said, his voice a dry rasp. "Name's Elias. My family has been the keeper of this island since his first mate, my many times great-grandfather, washed ashore and survived." Elias stepped closer, his gaze fixed on the open chest. "For 5 generations we've kept the secret, waiting for the right ones to find it. You didn't come with greed. You came with curiosity. That makes a difference." You knew?" Jenny stammered. "Knew?" Elias almost smiled. "We were tasked with guarding it. The captain's journal spoke of a betrayal. It wasn't a random British patrol. Someone in the Continental Congress itself sold them out to stop this very cargo from reaching Philadelphia. The conspiracy to suppress these documents didn't die in 1779. There are those, descendants of old powers, collectors with shadowy allegiances, who would still pay a fortune to see this history burn." Scene 7. A shadow on the water. Back on the research vessel, as they carefully catalogued the first of the documents, a call crackled over the marine radio. It was the Coast Guard. "Be advised, research vessel Sea Searcher. We have an unflagged, high-speed craft entering your vicinity. Exercise caution." Arman looked through the porthole. A sleek black speedboat was cutting through the water towards them, moving with a purpose that felt aggressive. Elias, who had joined them, grunted. "Word travels fast in certain circles. They have listeners everywhere. They're not here for you. They're here for the chest." A plan formed quickly. They couldn't outrun them, and they couldn't let the documents be captured. "Elias," Arman said, his voice tight. "The map on the journal, it showed another location, a fallback point marked with an X further inland." "The old lighthouse foundation," Elias nodded. "It's a maze of cellars." Scene 8. The Decoy. As the black boat pulled alongside, its occupants, 2 grim-faced men in tactical gear, prepared to board. Just then, Jenny, following Arman's plan, emerged onto the deck, holding the empty iron-bound chest, acting as if it was immensely heavy. "Stop right there," one of the men shouted, training a weapon on her. "Bring that here." With a show of reluctance, Jenny handed over the chest. The men pried it open, their faces contorting in fury at the sight of the rocks that Jenny had hastily stuffed into it. "Where is it?" the lead man snarled. But in that moment of distraction, Arman and Elias were already in a small inflatable dinghy, the real documents secured in waterproof bags at their feet. They were using the research vessel as a shield, motoring quietly towards the island's shore. Scene 9. The true betrayal revealed. Hidden in the damp stone cellar of the ruined lighthouse, they finally had a moment to breathe. Under the beam of a flashlight, Arman unrolled one of the most prominent scrolls. It was a letter,
its script elegant and precise. It's from Silas Thatcher, a minor delegate from a northern colony. He's detailing a secret agreement with the British command. He argues that the radical ideals of liberty in the draft constitution would lead to anarchy and ruin the colonial economy. He wasn't just betraying the liberty's location, he was trying to sabotage the very philosophical foundation of the nation before it could even be fully written. This isn't just a draft, it's the original vision, more radical and bold than what was eventually ratified. He succeeded in suppressing it. The treasure wasn't just historical, it was a bomb that could rewrite the understanding of America's founding. Scene 10. The legacy secured. The sound of the Coast Guard helicopter thrummed in the air above. The men on the black speedboat, having found nothing, were forced to flee. The immediate danger was over. Weeks later, Dr. Arman Haq and Jenny stood at a press conference at the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. Behind them, under bulletproof glass, lay the Haq collection, the letters, the drafts, Captain Harrington's journal. And so, Arman concluded, the true treasure of the Liberty was not gold, but the lost voice of its founders, a voice that reminds us that our history is more complex and more courageous than we ever knew. As the flashbulbs popped, Arman caught Jenny's eye. They both knew the story wasn't truly over. Somewhere out there, the descendants of Silas Thatcher and those who shared his ideology might still be lurking. But for now, the forgotten ship had given up its secret, and a lost piece of American soul was finally, rightfully, home. The island was quiet again, its ghost finally at peace, its greatest story told.